Is that a yes?
Give me 3 seconds.
Got it.
I think we are successfully here.
Amazing. Hey, welcome
And
everybody.
it seems like all the LinkedIn lives I see like recorded, it's this that started. It's like, are we on? Like, are we? Like, that's the first start of every LinkedIn live recorded set. Are we on? I think we are.
That's for sure the start of everyone that we've ever done as well.
Yeah, and starting on time isn't a priority, but giving good, impactful advice is. And everyone who's here, thank you for watching. We're broadcasting 2 places, one Goldcast. Next week we'll get the ops on that if you want to join and put comments directly in here. But for today, this is just the back end. Shout out to Goldcast. They just announced $28 million Series A today. That's pretty badass, especially in a competitive space with people that are already unicorns. Respect always for that. But we have an awesome guest with us today, Jason Widup of Metadata. We're going to dive in to understand what's working, what isn't, and hear his insights and understand that. Brought an awesome guest. We have Eric and Jason, who you know regularly here. We all subscribe to this Outbound 2.0 philosophy, but wanted to, y'all have heard us before. Wanted to bring in Jason and just get right to it. Like, Jason, debunk a myth about Outbound today.
Well, I've got several. I mean, I'll go with the one that I really I've talked about a lot. Oftentimes, I think most of the time, outbound reps are in the sales team. Outbound reps are marketers. So I guess what's the myth I'm going to debunk. The myth is outbound reps are sales people. I'll say like that'll be the myth I'll debunk. Outbound reps are marketers. And here's why. So most of the time we use, outbound or even reps that just like handle inbound, but like our outbound reps, we expect them to book a meeting, and we expect them to book a meeting with, on their own really, and so they have limited channels they can use, but oftentimes the thought is, okay, your job is to just book meetings. And so even if it's a rep, let's just call it like a SDR instead of just outbound or inbound. Let's just call it SDR. If they're an inbound SDR and you're not just sending over a demo request, so like let's say you're gating content and you're saying, oh great, this person just downloaded this ebook over here, let's send them to the SDR team. And then oftentimes the expectation is like, well, hey, SDR, why can't you, they just downloaded a piece of content. Why aren't they on a meeting tomorrow? It's like they just downloaded, like the most high level piece of content that we have. So that means they're ready to buy. And so like that seems to be the expectation is like, and then marketers is like, we'll just send over less and less qualified leads. And I mean qualified from like an engagement perspective, not necessarily like an ICP perspective. And we just expect them to be able to like get them on a demo real quick. Well, the reality is that doesn't work. And for that rep to book a successful meeting, they have to market the product. And so they have to exchange value. They have to build relationship. They have to understand the pain point that prospect is having. They have to address that pain point. There's like, so to me, it's like one-to-one marketing. So the SDR is like a one-to-one marketer. They're hearing directly from that person and they're giving them back what they need. And they're doing that until they're able to get the meeting. So I think that's my, and then, on outbound reps are kind of the same thing, right? I mean, outbound reps, I think, know a little bit more that they can't just send one email and ask for the meeting on that one email. But, the expectation still is speed, speed, quality of that meeting. So I think outbound reps are often like shortchanging things. They're trying to get it faster than like would naturally happen if they were doing it right. And so they might, instead of 6 touches in a, ask, it's like 3 touches in an ask, and it's like, well, we know it's 6 touches for a reason, so let's not try. You're not better than everybody else, so you don't shortchange that. So I think even with outbound reps, I think outbound is they more understand that they're marketers, but they should probably be under the marketing team.
That is a big aha that we're seeing with the outbound. Like, how is it working at Metadata? Are your reps that are gold with booking meetings under the marketing team?
Yeah. So I have 2 inbound reps basically, and then 8 outbound reps. And the inbound reps they're gold differently, right? The luxury though for my inbound reps is in the way we market, we don't gate content. So we only send over demo requests. So the inbound reps, you can imagine, is kind of like they're booking meetings. You know what I mean? Basically is all they're really having to do. But I say that like it's so easy. We still have a big drop off, you know what I mean, between people that literally raise their hand on day 1 and then day 2, they're like, who the fuck are you? You know what I mean? Like, we're like, what do you mean? You just literally said yesterday you want a demo. And now you're like, did I request this demo? Did I not? And so sometimes, even the inbound rep has to do some marketing, do some struggling, to get that meeting. But yeah, that's basically kind of their world. And then the outbound reps are just trying to build a relationship, trying to offer value. And that's where our job in marketing, really kind of starts to come into the picture, so like those outbound reps, they need content. They need good content, to share. They need stuff that actually they can give to those prospects that's deemed valuable, to the prospects. So they need a good constant stream of content, things to share from marketing as well. And so, so that's always, there's always that, that pairing up.
Jason, awesome job there. Talking about Hubbard, who's handling some of the logistics here. Appreciate that. I want to pass it to Jason. What other things do you want to inquire about with metadata?
There's 2 Jasons. So Jared, you got to be more specific. I can go by Widup if you want. Maybe Hubbard might go by J. I can go J Dub.
Well, then if you do J Dub, then I'm the Dub, I guess. But JR is me. J Hub.
There you go. Oh, and we can't hear him.
Mute.
No, he's not on mute. His microphone's out.
Oh, microphone's out.
Yeah, not sure why, but Jason, could you go a little deeper into you were talking about having like those 3 touch points and then an ask, or 6 touch points and then an ask. What do those touch points really look like at metadata if you're just doing pure outbound?
Most of the time we're trying to hook on some pain. You know what I mean? So we're trying to like try different messages to see what's currently resonating, or what's the, our platform can solve several pain points. And so sometimes it's just round robining through them, you know what I mean, with a contact, just to see like, oh, did this hit? Did this hit? It's a lot of using the content that we have to build trust and relationship. So a lot of our content, actually 99% of our content, is written without an angle to our product, so it's tangentially related. It's definitely related to B2B marketers' world, how they can do things better in their world, but it's not all paid ads related. It's not all automation related, which is a lot of what our platform does. It's just, hey, B2B marketers, these are the challenges you have in your roles. Here are some ways to solve them. And we come up, we have podcasts, we have blogs, we have, all different things that people can consume. And so a lot of it is just using that content, and it's all ungated. So like people maybe even, trust us a little bit more, like, oh, it's not gated, and they're giving us it's valuable and ungated. So okay, I feel free to consume this, and I don't, I'm maybe not going to feel like I'm going to get beat over the head, by sales. And so yeah, so a lot of it is just trying to understand the pain point, trying to do a little discovery, trying to learn a little bit more, and then seeing, and it's, from the beginning, we've had a very consultative approach. And so we just like to learn more about what you're doing. And then our sellers and our SDRs know a lot about the product. So they can really, they don't have to like, well, let me bring in my, my SE as soon as you engage with me, like the very first time, hey, I'm interested. Oh, let me bring my SE because I know nothing about my product. Our sellers and our SDRs even are more indoctrinated into the marketer's life. So like they can kind of like be relevant to the marketer. And the way we do that is Mark and I, my marketing partner, we help our internal teams understand what's going on in marketing today. Like we'll record videos and we'll send it, internally around. Hey, this is what my peers are dealing with right now. This is the stuff you should know. And, when this recession hit, our product is good in times of good, and then it's an efficiency measure in times of bad. And so, we pivot our messaging, and we kind of like, oh, this is your pain point now isn't hyper growth. Your pain point now is meeting your goals with less, so how do you become more efficient? So, kind of start to pivot that way with the outbound motions as well. And just kind of seeing what works, trying to build a relationship, and then just kind of sitting back, and kind of waiting for them to come back to us instead of like, no, do you need it? Do you need it? Do you want it? Do you want it? So being there, when they need something, really.
All right. Is my mic work now?
Woo! He's back.
Yeah. All the technical.
J Hubs and J Dubs.
I couldn't agree more with what you're talking about, Jason. I mean, that's as I have more and more of these conversations, that's the key difference that I'm seeing between teams that are effective and ones that aren't. And I certainly have seen this with the teams that I've managed over the last 2-3 years, that when I had them try and function as just a pure salesperson, here's your list of named accounts, go have them. They weren't doing a whole lot. They were doing a lot of activity, but they weren't actually moving the needle or contributing much to pipeline. But when I ran them as a arm of demand gen, then all of a sudden they were really, really effective. One of the biggest challenges that I've seen on that side, though, is getting people used to and comfortable with the idea that attribution is not as linear as it is under a typical sales model. Because what I saw was the vast majority, like 60, 70+% of the people that they were reaching out to and ultimately converted were coming to the website and filling out a form instead of replying directly to them. Or clicking on an ad or something like that. So you've got to have a familiarity or level of comfort with this combined motion, as opposed to like that rep was responsible for that soup to nuts.
Yeah. I've been talking a lot about attribution lately, and actually kind of wondering why there's even more new companies trying to like crack that nut, because I'm like, you guys are all doing it the same way. Like, somebody come to me with something different. What I need a way of like looking at some of this dark stuff that's happening, the social proof, the other things that are actually the actual real reasons, that get people to move down the funnel a little bit. I was actually just talking to one right before this call, and I was like, yeah, this looks great. Looks like every single other one I've seen. What's different, and then here's what's missing, and it's like, when people use organic social, that's like the biggest one. And we're heavy users of that here at Metadata. We have from the beginning. Mark and I, we basically use LinkedIn automation from the very beginning to turn LinkedIn into a free content distribution channel for us with our own personal accounts or profiles, as well as our company profile. And we have, we know it works because we see it, we hear the self-attribution, we see our grow, our followers grow, et cetera. We see the people that follow then come in and become customers. So we kind of see that stuff, but it's not, there's really no direct line. And so attribution, especially of the most important things, are hard, hard to come by. And it's even, it gets broken up, like you said, too, when it's like, okay, marketing brought it here and then SDRs picked it up here and then the AE got involved there. What was the thing that actually, what was the biggest impact, in that? And I'm a big believer the human element is a huge impact. So like if you can get the SDR motion to work, I think that's the best one, because, we all want to kind of interact with humans more than anything else. But we've been like, I think a lot of us have been just turned off by our experiences with SDRs, because what do we do as companies? We go pay them $60,000 a year, barely a living wage in some cities. And then we expect them to be the tip of the spear, like the first interaction, the first human interaction with our brand. We are leaving to the people we pay the least to. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And so I think we need to turn that around almost, you know what I mean? Or just use it right, or train them better, or get them more indoctrinated into the problems I'm having. So that's what we try and do, is like through the stuff I was talking about before, how can we make the SDRs think more like marketers so that they're a little bit more indoctrinated into the problem. They understand the world of the marketer better. We carry around a lot of anxiety. We're always looking behind our shoulder, and sales reps don't often feel that way. They're like, they're more like, confident and everything's working. And you're just like, sometimes marketers aren't quite like that. And so having your SDRs and everybody in that funnel understand the minds of the marketer more, or whoever you're selling to, can only benefit. But that doesn't come with a $60K a year person, probably.
No. Yeah, and on the attribution piece, I mean, it's pretty crude, but the way that I was able to really definitively show the impact of what the outbound reps are doing in this sort of dual function, or aligned with marketing or demand gen, was I ran the exact same campaign, one just doing ABM on the marketing demand gen side, and the other with the reps calling on, reaching out to the same accounts. And I converted between 50 and 100% more of the accounts whenever I did a dual motion than when I just ran the other side of it. And then things like my cost to qualified meeting on the paid advertising side was half the cost that it was when I was just running it on its own. So it's pretty crude, but at the same time, when the numbers are that strong, like, it doesn't leave much room to question. But relative to what you were talking about as far as like compensation, level of experience and stuff like that, that's one of the big things that I'm still trying to get my arms around about what do we do about this, because so much of what we did to put ourselves in this situation was equip those people with technology that really, really expands the impact of what they're doing, whether that's good or bad. And so, that tech requires a level of sophistication that few of those people have. And arguably that level of sophistication that's required is continuing to climb. And I mean, even on the marketing or demand gen side, I would say, a significant portion don't have that level of, expertise or, knowledge base. And so, like, what do we do around that from an education or training standpoint?
Yep. And oftentimes what you see is, like, you see these roles, they spend more time in the technology setting it up than they do in like crafting the message, or, you know what I mean? They're going back and forth. So we've turned these roles, and even a lot of marketing roles, into operators of apps, instead of like, oh, wait, let me actually think about what the experience, what the prospect or customer actually wants from the experience, and what I can give them. And I think that's part of the problem as well. And probably also why a lot of companies they've probably just determined the SDR role is a technology role. It's just like getting people into cadences, it's setting it up, but it's, hey, I'm just using the approved cadence, from like on high, and they don't have their own special sauce in it. They just become a avatar, you know what I mean? Basically like running automation. And that's really bad use of SDRs, I think. Like, in my opinion, you hire SDRs that have a perspective, that have some personality, that have that can build relationships, that is eager to learn about the prospect's world, and then let them go on that. Have some kind of messaging, but like put your own stuff on top, in the middle. Make it your own, so that role isn't just a robot, like a robotics role.
I was just going to say, I was working with an SDR team that they came to me. I set up their whole email infrastructure. I'm doing their data infrastructure. And they came to me and they're like, oh, do you think we should get more reps? And I was like, oh, well, why? And they're like, well, because then we could send more emails. Like, why don't we just set up more emails? Like, we don't need to get more reps to be able to do that, right? And so I was like, and I even told, and I'm managing that for them too. And I was like, you really need to get your people, if they're going to do anything, it's like getting on LinkedIn more and cold calling more, because like email's taken care of. And in a lot of ways, I appreciate a lot of what you're saying, because I even talk to SDRs and I'm like, all right, so sometimes they'll be like, oh, like, who should I be targeting? And I'm like, well, your product integrates phenomenally with Stripe. Let's pull down every company that is with Stripe. And then I pass over the list and they're like, hey, I don't know how to open a zip file. I was like, all right. So now let's, because Built With, I'm sure you've used it, downloads a zip file. And I was like, all right, great. So open up the zip file for them. I'm like, all right, now, here you go for it. And then they're like, but how do I get leads from this? And these are SDRs. The story I'm telling, they've been an SDR for like 3 years. And I'm like, oh, okay. Take the list of the company domains and then copy and paste it into the company part in Apollo, and then search by your persona and just start going through those people. And they were like, I didn't even know that was possible. I'm like, really? That's my favorite feature of Apollo. Like, what? How do you usually prospect for these people? So, and then taking it a step further even as well. And like what we are finding a lot of success in Jared's campaign is you just got another 3 positive responses today, Jared, is combining relevance with personalization. So like that relevant messaging that you're talking about, and then the secret sauce that an SDR can only put on top.
Yep.
And I mean, like for somebody like Jared, I'm using data to do that because I'm not going to sit there and do all of that. But like the SDRs definitely have the time to be able to sit in and like add that secret sauce to the campaign that, only a trained person, it's not even a job. It doesn't matter about data. It doesn't matter about outsourcing. Like only a trained person around the problem that the company solves would be able to look at somebody else's company and be able to make a call of like, all right, I'm going to mention this in my outreach. And you're right. Like we are like not doing a good job of training SDRs to be able to make these calls, to be able to use the technology effectively, and be that spear for your brand.
Yeah. Yep.
We're micromanaging what SDRs have to send, right? Giving them one domain to send it from and everybody to do it. That's pretty standard, right? Like SDRs don't even have the ability to write their own sequence. I mean, and they're afraid of cold calling. Like that's hard to scale, right? Like you just have them as an inbox, like what Eric said in his anecdote.
Yeah. And that's where, I feel like we can have better like if that's what we want to do, like let's just do better automation then. You know what I mean? Like let's not burden a human, with like just button pushing and things like that. And so I think there are some ways that we can get better, even with the automation that's available today, get out of these static sequences, and get more into dynamic sequences based on data and behaviors and what's going on. So yeah, there's definitely room for improvement there. But at the same time, I think empowering the SDRs, right? Like again, it's the first person oftentimes that your prospect speaks with at your company. And so if you literally think about it from that perspective, and you think about first impressions, and the importance of first impressions, then, really rethink that. But to rethink that, you also have to rethink how you use SDR. So you got to kind of move out of the like, all right, they're a conveyor belt factory, and into more of this like, okay, let's not think of them as high volume stuff. High volume stuff should be the automation tools, like that's high volume stuff. People should be used for uniqueness, personalization, intimacy, relationship building, because we can hear what you're saying and react to it. We have a face, we can do a facial expression when we're talking, and there's just so much more connection there. And I think it'd be great to, pivot that role to more of a relationship builder. They're not an AE, they're there to build relationship with the company. And then when that person's ready to, it's not when we're ready for them to buy, it's like when they're ready to buy, as long as we're doing the right things, we have a good product, of course, you got to have product market fit, good content, clear story, then, and you're delivering that, then they'll come back, they'll come back when they're ready.
Is that how you're utilizing SDRs and metadata?
We're trying a lot of different things. Honestly, we're in high growth mode. And so it's like, we're always trying different things, but it's always around that consultative perspective. So it's always in the vein of, hey, I'm here to educate you however you want to be educated on this product. I only want you to buy this if we all think you're going to have success. And so we actually turn away customers, not very often, but we also maniacally qualify, early on too, and we wipe a bunch of people out before they even get to us. But yeah, it's really like let's just make sure that this is the right platform. It's not cheap, and it's impacting a very important part of marketing, which is revenue and pipeline. And so let's not make a bad decision here. And I think the more you can personalize that experience, and give them what they need and not generic stuff, and that is much easier to be done through a good SDR.
And I notice your increased focus on community. How are you leveraging that in the outbound side, if at all?
Yeah, so we just launched our community, our actual community, about a month ago. It's in stealth mode right now. So it's kind of handpicked, and we're just kind of figuring out how we want it to go. But, we've really had an audience for over a year and a half. We've really been working on the brand. We had our big demand event last year with 5,000 registrants. And so we started to really and then we were communicating with them through email, but it was always not salesy. It was always just our kind of way in marketing, which was education and just here's what's going on. Here's a new event we're doing, that kind of thing. So right now with community, it's all about, let's build a community for B2B marketers that we would want to be a part of. What does that look like? And then with things like community or our demand event, our going in approach is, let's just do this exactly how the people would want it. Let's kind of ignore the commercial aspect. I mean, I have to not fully ignore it, you know what I mean? But there has to be at least a hypothetical line, to revenue. But if we focus on the experience and really doing what we would want as, B2B marketers, then that stuff will happen. And that's kind of how we're doing the community as well. Is the community is for our customers and not customers. It's really an industry community, but we have a protected space for customers too, where they can have kind of customer only communications. But we told these founding members, we said, hey, we're building a community for you. We don't want to pretend like we know what you want. So, hey, let's start this community. And the first part of it is going to be a community to define a community. And you're going to tell us what kind of experiences that you want in this community. We're going to try those, and you're going to give us feedback on those. We're going to roll out different technologies that we might want to, have this community on. We're going to let you decide. So anyway, ultimately that, just again, this is a relationship building thing. It's a trust building thing. Just like these other programs or, things that we're running. Yeah. And so I'm sure at some point, the commercial benefit will be when a metadata customer answers a non-metadata customer's question is like, oh, I do that easily with metadata, or, you know what I mean? And so we'll get those little, winks of demand, commercialness in there. But it's not a focus for us.
And I think that's big. And I love what you all have done, right down to when I'm targeted by your ads, it being you. And you're literally talking to me. Assuming I was a marketer. I might be a little off on that, but
our targeting might be off a little bit.
a touch, but who knows? And
maybe we want you to see it, so you'll talk about it right now.
Well, first off, there is the meta play where you have the people, the certain groups of people that are grouped in. Well said. Well done. But yeah, I mean, and that's big with community, and without going too tangential here, there's two types of communities in my head: demand gen ones, or purpose is demand gen, and the second is customer success, right? Yeah. You have your trail, and you have your demand, and with demand gen, as the customer success is pretty straightforward. People don't feel intimidated. Oftentimes, it's very close to 100% your clients. Demand gen ones, they're just waiting to get infiltrated. Okay, when is the selling going to start? And I think how you approach that and how you approach outbound in general, it seems to be pretty synonymous or similar and pretty cool. And kudos to you with that. asking everything from them, that has some inherent risks, like right down to the platform. But it's a great way to be. Nonetheless, it's a great starting point.
Yeah, I mean, we've always, since day one that I started here almost 3 years ago, the strategy was always, I come from big company marketing ops world, so I already knew the product was amazing. So I all I had to do is have a demo, dig in a little bit, because I know the industry and I know the technology we have available to us as B2B marketers. It was an immediate like, yes, this is it. And so then I wanted the brand from the very beginning. I was like, I know we have a solid product, so we don't have to pretend over here. So what I need to do is I need to like really build a brand that people will gravitate towards, because we're in MarTech and I have to stand out because I've got 9,000 other tools around me. And so we really focused on the brand. And I said from the beginning, it's like, I want the brand to feel like, that person in college that you were friends with, that they were pretty nerdy, but very witty at the same time. Like they would just say things. They were so intelligent and smart, but nerdy. You just wanted more of it, so you knew they were smart, but you also knew they had a personality kind of behind them, and they could like make fun of themselves, make fun of what's going on. They weren't too heady, because we were seen at the time as like just a very technical product, and we still are pretty technical. And I wanted to soften that and make it more accessible. And so that was really, from the very beginning, and it still kind of holds true today. We just try and like do things that are a little quirky, a little nerdy, but smart. We try and be humble. We're not afraid to poke fun at ourselves. We're very transparent and open, with everything, mistakes, otherwise. And I think that's what marketers like. I think a lot of marketers want to be able to be this way, but they can't because their leadership doesn't support it. And I'm just like, I have a luxury of having a CEO that loves it and turns it all over to me. Like really, really does just turn the keys over and doesn't give me a too much grief. You know what I mean? When I want to do something different, or hey, I want to do this, but I'm not really going to be able to track it. What we think is the right thing to do. And he's very, very open about that stuff. And I think a lot of marketers want that. They really wish they lived because I know I've done this a lot of times, and I love this now because it's kind of like the leadership we have to kind of convince is me, and I'm like just as wild and crazy as anybody else. And so it makes it easier and more fun.
Nice. So right now with your outbound, you mentioned like if you wanted to automate it and do math, like what are you actually doing? I don't know if we actually went down to that the brass tack, so to speak.
Yeah. So
working right now, because I know it.
One of our motions, yeah. So I'll talk about one of the motions that we have like a high degree of automation on. It's our incentivized conversation ads. And so I have conversation ads that run in LinkedIn, and those are basically ads that show up in your messages in LinkedIn, and they're like, choose your own adventure statement. You got buttons that can take you, in different directions. So it's kind of like drift inside of messages, LinkedIn messages. And I take people through, a couple of messages, and at the end of those, they have an action, and they can book a demo, and that pops up a LinkedIn lead gen form. Well, they fill that out. That goes to HubSpot. When that gets to HubSpot, we do some enrichment. We make sure we're talking to the right person, because we'll accept a personal email address on the lead gen form. So that's the first step, is we'll enrich. And so we'll see if we can get the business email address as well. Then we send them an automated message that is like, hey, click this link to book your demo. Because we couldn't, we didn't want to, we might bridge at some point right over from LinkedIn over, but we wanted that enrichment step just so we could like assign the account, et cetera, so we can show the right calendar, all that stuff. So they come to the website. We know who they are because they've clicked a link in a HubSpot email. So now we know who they are automatically. We automatically pop up a chat bot that automatically says, hey, thanks for requesting a demo. Here's your AE's availability, and so it shows it to them. They can book automatically. Then we send them one more like email to confirm, hey, these are the qualifications. You have to be spending at least X number of dollars a month on paid ads. You're this, you're not messing around. Then they get on the demo. They have the call. After the call, the AE dispositions it in a certain way, and then the gift card that we promised them in the beginning automatically gets fulfilled after the meeting. And so that there used to be 3 or 4 steps in there that were human, and now we've basically automated the entire thing. And then what we do is anyone that falls out anywhere in that process, those go to the SDRs, and then the SDRs are now following up with them to figure out, like, why didn't you book? What can we do? Can we, how can we get you onto a meeting?
Are they giving cell phone data there when they're coming in? Or are you enriching that?
We'll enrich it. Our SDRs will go use Apollo, as well. They'll try everything they can, really. And so they'll start with email. They'll go to LinkedIn. They'll text them, call them. Yeah, because we're like, I didn't force your hand to fill out my form. At some point you were thinking about something, even if it's $100, that's fine. Get your butt in here. We'll give you're the right person. So come on in, let's do this. Let's give you the $100. And we like that because, the $100 offer thing has just been such a boon for us because we're able to skirt around pain, you know what I mean? And timing. And we're just like, oh, here, just take the $100. Let's give us a demo. Give you a demo. We know you're the right person. Now we've gotten the platform in front of you, gotten a couple of light bulb moments to go off. And then when you're ready, you come back and convert. And so, but the incentivized demos also have a lower meeting rate, right? Because they're like, they might have said yes for the $100 and then they maybe rethought or like, I don't have time for this. And so we go after them still. Yeah.
What are some other intent triggers that you're working with outside of that process that might
even
be
our best intent source is G2. It's just so clean and so clear. It's like, oh, they were on your profile page. Oh, they were researching this category. It's like that's pretty clean intent data, y'all. I don't know how 6th Sense and Bombora do all their black magic math behind the scenes of like, well, they were reading these 7 articles and there's a surge. It's like, oh man, you lost me in math. G2, it's for a simple mind like mine. So clear.
You're on Bing, hovering over the paid ad for 3 seconds.
Like yep. So I love G2 intent. Now, I created my own intent source too, which works really well. Oh, I like hiring intent too. So like our platform, one of our messages is like, don't go hire that next demand gen person first. Like bring this in, see how much, relief it can take off your current marketers before you go hire more performance marketers. So job hiring data is a good source of intent for us. But I went and I created my own. So what's required for a customer of ours to be successful is if they have to spend at least like $20,000 to $30,000 a month across the channels we can activate it, right? So it's LinkedIn, Facebook, display, and Google Ads. And there's no data source for that, right? So I'm targeting B2B companies, and size sometimes is an indicator, oftentimes not, of how much they're spending. Well, if you go to LinkedIn and you go to a company page and you go to posts and you go to ads, LinkedIn just shows you all the ads that they have loaded up in LinkedIn. And so I hired a team in Poland to write scraping algorithms that would basically like go to a company page, follow those 2 buttons, scroll and count, and then I basically had an intent source, and kind of an intent source. It was more like a qualifier. Like, oh, you have 5 ads of, from all time, 5 ads on LinkedIn, probably not best for us. Oh, you have 250 ads loaded up on LinkedIn, across all time. Yeah, maybe, more ripe for us. So yeah, those are the main intent sources I'm using. But I always encourage people like go create your own, find something unique. Because if you're using one that you can buy, then all your competitors have it too, and they're using it. So like, try and create your own or some combination of sources that make it unique for you.
Facebook has that ability super easy as well that LinkedIn does, right?
You can do the same thing on Facebook. Yeah, just a couple different button clicks. Yeah, we do that too. So just harder for us like to find the Facebook company page than it is for some reason to find the LinkedIn company page. Built With, actually, of all companies, has the best source of Facebook company pages that I found, which is like, you don't usually think of Built With as like a great data source, but on Facebook company page URLs, man, they've got that corner. They've got that market cracked.
What else, Jason? What else have you seen? When I say Jason, J Hubs.
Let's make sure you can hear me this time.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I agree 100%. Like, content has become more important than ever. So if you've got true value add that you can get out there in front of people as, you know, sort of your introductory piece, then you're doing pretty well. And if you don't have that, then you're really going to be struggling. And so, you know, I think both on, you know, the marketing demand gen side as well as the outbound side, more effort and thought needs to go into what those offerings are and how do you align, you know, true value to, you know, what your organization is doing. And, you know, absolutely, you know, there's a great place for incentivizing demos and stuff like that. But, you know, Jason already hit upon some of the negatives around that, which is your show up rates are much, much lower. Oftentimes your qualification can be lower because you're, of course, motivating people based off of something other than a desire to see the actual product. On the flip side of it, though, I've been, you know, a perfect example of like how that can work, because I've taken many of those meetings for $100 Amazon gift card or whatever, and had no idea what I was walking into to see. And it was like, oh, holy crap, that's really cool. That's really interesting. And so, you know, it can sort of work either way. But, you know, one of the best that I saw was at, you know, the company I was just at, where we were built on the Airflow platform, which is a open source, you know, project. And so what we did is we had an Airflow certification that we offered, and we actually charged for it, mostly to demonstrate value. But that was our value add offer as we were starting to reach out to people that we were leveraging with the outbound team. Like, you know, hey, come have a conversation with us about what we can do on top of Airflow, and we'll give you and your team a promo code for free access to the certification. It's like, okay, this is very much, you know, a highly qualifying value add offering, because nobody's going to take you up on it just because they want to go learn Airflow for free. But, you know, it was extremely effective at getting people to come in there and do that. And, you know, added bonus that our marginal cost on it was basically zero because we'd already put in all of the effort to create it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And that's what we find too. Like, the incentivized demos where they actually come on, but they don't convert, is usually a timing issue. And so we've gotten really good at, great, close, lost that op, you know, no problem, you know, like, and then we kind of know the cadence of time to kind of come back. Often we'll learn it in the cycle, like, oh, you're using this or that. You know, oh, your contract's up then. Oh, okay. And so yeah, we've realized there's gold in them hills, you know, even on those incentivized that close lose. Sometimes but oftentimes, you know, we'll follow up and we'll bring them back in.
Yeah, but I think it's critical as far as whoever owns the purse strings to make sure they understand that that's a longer tail process than they may believe it's going to be at first. So,
yes,
you know, it may not be a 30-day ROI on that expense. Like, it may be 3-6 months down the road before you actually see the ROI on that. And so if you go into that and everybody's on the same page, then it's not that big of a deal. If you go into it and it's a shock, then you can have some issues.
Yep, exactly. I think of those incentivized ones, you know, like I talked about my inbound reps. I still think they have to do a lot. They have to do work on those, you know, so like the incentive is one thing and that can get them to like raise the hand, but they still have to do some marketing, you know what I mean? And so, and we actually we analyzed the data. It was like our incentivized demos within 90 days converted at 5x less than just a, you know, hand raiser without an incentive. And we were like, all right, that was okay because the unit economics worked. And then when we looked at it a year later, it was like, oh wait, a lot of these this is the second opportunity. You know, what's going on? It's like, oh, okay. We got them and we had those light bulb moments go off. They weren't ready. Now they are, and they're kind of coming back. And so, so yeah, we see those kind of two paths afterwards. So yeah, I like.
Well, I think the key to a lot of this stuff, because I mean, it goes with a lot of the examples you've had, as well as some of them that I have, is make sure that you've got the data and the tracking on it, and that you're doing the experimentation. Because more often than not, it comes up differently than you would have anticipated whenever you started the whole thing. And so,
yeah.
You know, if you're not doing that and you're not tracking that over a long enough period of time, you're never going to know that, hey, that worked. Same story with like the attribution of combining, the outbound effort with demand gen. It's like, at surface level, it looks like this isn't really working or it's not moving the needle. And so you gotta ask more questions and dive deeper.
Yep.
How much cold outbound does metadata reps do? Like true, like here's 100 accounts you're responsible for.
Yeah, so we're just switching that up now. So the AEs are going to start to do a lot more of the like outbound to, they're each going to have 50 accounts that they're like their top. So all of our sellers will have, I think, 600 A and B tier accounts in the way we define it. And then they'll take those and then they'll identify their top 50. And then those are the ones that they'll basically say like, okay, we'll do some like marketing air cover for you, but you're really going to go try and build a relationship and, try and figure that out. And then the SDR team, the outbound SDR team is more on the rest of those, and just kind of like trying to find somebody, build relationship, get somebody to connect. I think a lot of that's happening on LinkedIn, more than email, for example. That's really the two motions, but that's kind of switching up now. The AEs were not doing a lot of their own outbound, but we're switching that up now, and we're just trying to tighten up who we target at this point. So we've just had a lot of heyday for the last 2.5 years, just, hey, B2B B2B companies that are spending at least this. And now we're just getting a little bit more, now that we've kind of seen who actually has the best success, we can tighten up our target even more.
How is an AE that hasn't done outbound in a minute going to respond to that?
They've all been, I think, eager.
What's that?
I think they've all been cool with it because like, here's why I think, and this is, I don't know this. I know this is why. At least a big part of the reason is because of our brand. So I have AEs tell me all the time in the outbound reps, I get meetings booked very easily because I call somebody and they know who we are. And so just by that, and they know who we are, and I like your marketing. And by the way, you're a marketer. You know what I mean? So if you're a marketer and you like our marketing, that actually helps the outbound, the AEs get meetings. They're like, oh, I like, and so some of the stuff that we do, they assume the platform does, even though it doesn't, like some of the things we do outside of the platform, because we're always trying to figure out what to put in next, or we have a lot of organic stuff that goes on. But like when I first used conversation ads to drive business, we didn't support conversation ads. And everyone was like, oh, you guys do conversation ads. I'm like, well, not really, but that's how I got you in here. So we had to really quickly build conversation ads into the platform. So we're doing a lot of different things.
That's badass. And it speaks to the power of the brand, right? Because where my head's at is if you didn't have a brand like this and all this other marketing, and you told a rep now to focus on their top 50, they're probably going to go like, hey, SDR, can I buy you lunch? What the fuck are you doing? Can I copy and paste what you're doing?
Yep.
Hey, top SDR. Okay,
that's
top,
what
right? Like people are saying Meta what? Like Meta Facebook? Like what is
it? Yep. Exactly. So no, it's been a huge, and I love that too, because like if we didn't have good marketing support and they had to do outbound, they'd be coming to me like, what are you guys going to do for me? How are you guys going to make this easier? And now that I never get that question. It's like, because we've been so broad with our targeting, because and with our LinkedIn connections and our content, I would be surprised if they got on the phone with somebody that hadn't at least seen something, or, you know what I mean? Just because we've been a lot all over the place, for the last 1.5, 2 years or so. And so, but as soon as we move up enterprise, I'm sure they'll be, who the fuck are you? Who are you guys? Like,
oh yeah,
I've been waiting for that. But
you're that cute little company that that the startups.
Oh, look at you guys over there. Yeah.
Do you empower the reps, the outbound, and like the AEs with like LinkedIn, let's call it training, like on a weekly cadence? Because I do think that would make it even smoother, right?
We do. Yeah, we actually we put it out there. We're like, hey, owning LinkedIn on these like release days that we like do a big takeover is like, we need people that want to do this, because we started really early on, like, oh, let's just put it in Octopost and just go share it. That doesn't work. A bunch of posts that say the exact same thing from a bunch of people just gets throttled. And so we knew, we're like, hey, everyone has to make this post their own. We'll give you some starter content. So yeah, we did training. We have a very specific way that we release the content. We give them talking points. We give them, all the things that they need, the building blocks to do good posts. We give them the angle. We give them, why is this important to marketers, and then everybody that does it knows that they have to put it into their own voice or it doesn't work. And so oftentimes, like if it's a big day for us and we have everybody doing it, the folks I know on LinkedIn are like, stop. Like all I see is, is metadata stuff, today is like, sweet. That's exactly kind of what we wanted to have happen. So yeah, so we empower not only that way, but like be yourself. If you want to post something on LinkedIn about whatever, like keep it professional at least, in some way, not offensive, but we don't dictate, like what you can or can't do on LinkedIn or other channels. My head of content marketing kind of has his own side little LinkedIn stuff that he does. He sells his own, like a book and a course that he's created. I'm totally fine with that, as long as that's not the focus of his LinkedIn posts, and most of them are metadata, focused. I'm like, that's fine. You want to put a post like that out on the weekend or whatever, do it, And so, and Gil, our CEO, has always said from the beginning, I want metadata to be a lab for your career. We're all about experimentation in our platform. So like, how could we not be kind of support experimentation in other areas of business, And so he's very clear about that too. Like try things that you wouldn't try at other companies here and see if they work, and then take those with you to your next place. So we have a lot of leeway and empowerment, even, from the top down.
Yeah, I think the regular posting, even away from the announcements, because announcements are just like PR pushes, right? Like it might go sky high, but it's gonna go down. Like it's not gonna stay sky high unless you're using metadata to optimize it all the time and show it to the right people, etc. But yeah, so just getting them out and just saying like, yeah, this is how I sell. This is Outbound 2.0. Like whatever your thoughts are outside of metadata, do you then like let's look at the AE and frankly the SDR persona. Like, do you offer support from like scraping their posts, like who's commenting and not, and like figuring creative stuff out, or is that like an every human for themselves type of thing?
No, we've offered that. Yeah, so we have some like LinkedIn automation kind of tools and data tools and stuff like that, that we offer to AEs that, want to take us up on it. And so, I don't know, we got like one of the things we offer is, hey, just give us your top accounts and we will just start to run automation that will go and connect you with their top marketers, or try to, it works a lot better when it's coming from me because I'm a marketer, but we'll just run that automation in the background for them, things like that. Or you want to, get a list of all the people that commented on this post. We have routines, we can run to scrape that data. And so we've got technology we use for that kind of stuff. But we really leave it. It was like, here's a menu, you know what I mean? You guys decide what you want to use. And, the reps that use most of the stuff are the ones that do the best. So, we're trying to show that more as like, hey, here are the reps that all beat their quota. This is the tools that they use and how frequently they use them. So like, be like Brian, like use the tools and get more sales.
Jason, one thing that you touched upon, we didn't call it explicitly though, is the feedback loops. So we've talked a lot about like marketing and demand gen supporting reps and them being a arm of that. But equally important, and one of the most valuable things for me as a marketer demand gen person has been both the feedback from the reps as far as what they're getting on a one-on-one basis with it, as well as having them be a really rapid iteration test bed for messaging, positioning, whatever, and being able to get data out of them a whole lot quicker than you would through some of these other motions, a whole lot cheaper. But you also get that qualitative side of it that's really hard to get on the other end.
Yeah, 100%. We probably don't do as good of a job on that as we could. We use gong trackers, primarily. We have some pretty good gong trackers that are set up. and people on my team listen to those, so we'll have gong trackers set up on, some of the non-trackable stuff, like literally my name and Mark's name are gong trackers. Oh, I follow Mark, I follow Jason, we hear that a lot. Or I listen to Demand Gen U, so we have trackers and that kind of stuff set up. But we also have trackers on things like, we want to have more of these on things that are like negative sentiment, and then like what happened around that negative sentiment. So can we start to understand the objections or where people are getting stuck in the demo? So yeah, we have meetings with both the SDRs and the AEs once a month to get that, direct feedback. But there's probably better like programmatic ways that we could be doing it as well than we are today. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll be the first to admit I've not been really any better than what you guys are on that front. But what's been most effective for me has been, not terribly sophisticated, but I always have like a handful of reps that are like out there on the edge and really get the demand gen side of things. And so, it's very informal, but like we just talk a lot about what's working, what's not on both sides of the equation, and it winds up being collaborative on that side.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Well, we're right at the hour. J Dubs. We should put Demand Gen U on our new Guru instance and give you another source, but that's further conversation. More of a value. But dude, thank you for being real. Thank you for unpacking like what you did with the automation all around, because that's what people are going to learn, right? Like it's great high level theory, but like this is what we're doing, and couldn't have had a better guest today. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. No, I love this. I love these topics. So, and I've been doing it for a long time. Probably the old man. I'm definitely the old man on this call. So, been marketing for 22 years now. So, no, I love it. Thanks for having me on to talk.
Yeah, it'll be awesome, and we could share the footage with you and handle all those logistics if you care. But this has been so rad. Thank you, and we'll be back next Thursday, same time, same place, and tell people, geez, it's just sales and marketing alignment, but really thoughtful, really thoughtful. And we want to push this narrative, right? Like it's not different silos, it's us together. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks guys, appreciate it. Jason Hubbard, nice to see you again. It's been a while.
It has been. All right, thanks everybody.